Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. So for today's video, if you guys remember a couple of months ago, I did a Q&A and someone asked me what are my top 5 best and top 5 least favorite Buffy episodes. So I stated back then that that is going to deserve a video of its own. So let me tell you, this was a hard video to plan because I really struggled with trying to narrow down to my 5 best episodes because there are so many more episodes that I wanted to talk about, but we would have been here forever. So I did manage to narrow it down to 5, but honestly I had to try to really pick and pull because there's definitely more than this that I absolutely loved. And I did come up with 5 of my least favorite Buffy episodes. So we're going to go over the least favorite first because I don't have a whole lot to say, and then we'll get into my most favorite Buffy episodes. So having said that, there are going to be spoilers in this video. So if you haven't watched Buffy and you don't know about the show, or you're currently watching it for the first time, make sure you probably want to skip past this one because there are going to be spoilers. So my first in the least favorite list is season 3 episode 1, Anne. So this one is the continuation at the end of season 2 where Joyce finds out that Buffy is a slayer and she doesn't take it very well, and she basically tells Buffy, like, if you're gonna leave, you can never come back. So Buffy walks out the door and she gets on a bus and she leaves. So she leaves Sunnydale and she has gone into another town and has taken on her middle name, Anne, and she's working as a waitress, and so she's under an assumed name and she just wants to leave everything behind. So this episode, I mean, I don't really care for it. Every time I watch Buffy, I actually skip past this one because it does have like a big bad in it. But it's just, you know, it doesn't really have any of the other Scoobies, and Buffy is in a really bad mood and it's kind of depressing, so definitely not one of my favorites. And next up on the least favorite list is the Zeppo. And it's funny because, so this is season 3, episode 13, so again with season 3, and a lot of people actually have this one on their favorites list. So this one is one of the very few episodes that actually revolves around Xander mostly, and I don't know what it is about this episode. I don't care for it. I don't really care about the big bads. It's just one that I just find super boring. So during my rewatches, a lot of the times I'll skip past this one as well. And I just realized apparently I only have 4 episodes listed for my least favorite, which is fine. So obviously I picked the ones that are definitely my least favorite. So the next one is season 4, episode 5, which is Beer Bad. So this is when Buffy and the Scoobies start at Sunnydale University, or UC Sunnydale, and Buffy starts to go to a bar and she meets a bunch of guys there, and the beer basically is turning them all into like cavemen. So the bartender has a real sticky point with like smart kids and he wants to dumb them down a bit. So it has this whole thing with like Buffy meets this group of guys and she starts drinking. So she starts losing herself and all of a sudden she's a primitive caveman. And like I said, like, you know, with one of the other ones, the Zeppo, there's nothing wrong with this episode. It's just, I don't know, it's just definitely not one of my favorites. And the last one out of my least favorites is season 4, episode 21. So this is Restless, and this is the one where they're all at Buffy's house, so they're at Joyce's house, and they fall asleep in the living room, like all of the Scoobies, so Giles, Xander, Buffy, Willow, and they all fall asleep in the living room. And this is actually a really important episode, but it's not one of my favorites. I find it really truthfully boring. But they all start to have like intertwined sort of dreams. So we're in all of their dream states. And Buffy, this is the one, I believe this is the first episode where she meets the first Slayer. And she starts giving her the premonition of like, death is your gift. So really important episode, especially going into season 5 and what happens in season 5. So Buffy kind of, you know, is really kind of weirded out by all of that. So really important, but for some reason it just doesn't appeal to me. I just don't really care for this episode at all. So getting into my favorites. Okay, so Like I said, it was really, really hard to narrow this down. But out of season 2, episode 17 is Passion. So here, you know, Angel has lost his soul, and Jenny Calendar, who's one of my favorite characters actually. I really like the character of Jenny, and I was so sad in this episode. So Angel has gone bad, and he is like the epitome of being evil and demonic. He's like in this soliloquy, almost like he's narrating the episode, and he starts doing things to toy with Buffy's friends. So of course he's doing all kinds of things around her to affect her, to traumatize her. So like he draws a picture of Joyce when she's sleeping and puts it on Buffy's pillow. So he's saying, you know, I can hurt your family and friends. I can still get into your house, kind of thing. He kills Willow's fish and puts them in the envelope. And of course, right at the end, because Jenny Calendar realizes she has an orb of Thesla, and she realizes that she can cast a spell and get Angel back his soul, because not only do they want him to be good, and of course they care about him and everything, but he is just terrorizing everyone. So of course he finds out, he smashes the orb, and he snaps her neck. And it's, you know, the very end of that episode, it gives me chills every single time of Angel doing the narration. And then they have this opera music playing in the background, and he tricks Giles into thinking that Jenny has forgiven him, and he goes home and he thinks Jenny is there, and he goes into his house, and there's like this classical music playing, and there's like a trail of rose petals up the stairs and champagne, and he's so happy because of course they had been fighting and he really loved her, and he thinks that she has finally forgiven him. He goes up the stairs and she's dead in his bed. And that whole sequence, like still to this day, like I've watched this episode so many times and it's still to this day, it gives me chills. So that is, I gotta say, that one is definitely within my top 5. Absolutely brilliant. And next is an episode that I speak about quite frequently, and I think about it frequently because I love the Halloween episodes that they do in this show. So season 4, episode 4 is my absolute favorite Halloween special, and it's Fear Itself. So this is when Buffy and the Scoobies and everybody are in, you know, they're in university, and they go into this haunted house. So one of the frat houses is having like a haunted house walkthrough at the frat house, but they inadvertently, see, this is why you don't like paint symbols on the floor, especially if they're demonic or they're occult, because like all kinds of things can go wrong. So basically they awaken a demon, a fear demon, who basically turns all of the fearful stuff in the house, so this haunted house, into real things. So the spiders, the rubber spiders, become real and all of that kind of stuff. And it shuts them up in the house, and it knows what your fears are. So like Willow, I think her fear is like, no, Xander, his fear is like not being seen or like losing his friends and stuff. And like Oz believes that he's turning into the werewolf, like, and it's not even a full moon, so he's trying to keep himself from changing. And it's hilarious when Anya shows up dressed as the bunny, because of course she's terrified of bunnies. And right at the end of the episode, when Giles is reading out of the book, and he says, you know, destroying the symbol, so like the pentagram, the pentacle that they have on the floor, it's like destroying the symbol. So Buffy walks over and punches it, and he says, will bring forth the demon even more quickly into this world. So they're like, oh god. So this fear demon comes out of the floor, and he's horrific looking on all of this. But after that whole sequence, it turns out that he's like this big. So Buffy just like stomps on him and kills him. And then right at the end, they look in the book, and it has the picture of the fear demon there, and Giles is really pissed off with himself because it has a caption under the picture, and they're like, well, what does it say? He's like actual size, so it's the actual size of the demon in the book, and they went through this whole thing. So that is absolutely my favorite Halloween episode, and I will definitely be watching it again this year. I think it's fantastic. And then the next one is one that I think is on pretty much everyone's top episode list, and that is season 4, episode 10, Hush. So this, of course, is where like the entire town of Sunnydale loses their voices, and they have the gentlemen that are coming around and they're stealing like everyone's hearts and stuff, and they need 5 of them to be able to make it permanent and stuff like this. So the gentlemen, the characters of the gentlemen, I think are totally creepy. I mean, they have these sinister smiles and they're just kind of floating around, and they're really super spooky. And of course the entire episode, almost except for a small part at the beginning and a small part at the end, is done entirely without anyone speaking. So there's you know, the way that they formulated this episode of like being able to convey what was going on without having anyone speaking was brilliant. And then of course you have Giles that does the slideshow, and he tries to tell like the whole story about what he's found in his research about the gentleman and what needs to be done, basically. So the legend goes that the princess got her voice back and she screamed and they all blew up and they, you know, they were defeated. So, and of course at the end, it's when Buffy realizes that Riley is one of the commandos, and he realizes that she's some sort of superhero, as he put it, but because he believes that the Slayer was like a mythical character and he's military. And of course right at the end, once everybody has their voices back, you know, he's sitting on one bed and she's sitting on the other bed in a dorm room, and they can't speak. They don't know what to say. So that whole thing, like the whole sequence and the way the episode was put together, like it was absolutely brilliant. Definitely a favorite. And next up, one of my favorites is season 6, episode 8 is Tabula Rasa. And you know, season 6 has a lot of comedy. Spike is a big character and I am team Spike. Don't care what anyone else says. Angel is a schmuck. I love Spike, and season 6 is definitely one of my favorite seasons. So, you know, you have a lot of really kind of deep storylines going here. Of course, Joyce has died. Buffy is trying to figure out her way in the world and take care of Dawn and all of this kind of stuff. And, you know, she's just come back from the dead, for heaven's sake. So she's trying to figure out her place in the world. And I can't remember if the first has been introduced at this point. Looks like I'm gonna have to rewatch again. But this specific episode, so Willow, of course, has come into her witchiness, and she's really getting addicted to witchcraft. She's got a problem. Tara's really mad at her because she's like, you know, go 1 week without using witchcraft. For everything, because she's using witchcraft for everything. She's taking it to a dangerous level. And like within the Scooby Gang, like there's some infighting, people are bickering and stuff like that. So she casts a spell called Tabula Rasa that basically she wants to wipe Tara's memory so she's not mad at her for this situation. She wants her to forget that fight. So anyway, she casts the spell goes awry, and the whole gang loses their memory. They can't remember who they are and all of this kind of stuff. So they're at the magic shop, and of course there's there's a loan shark that's out after Spike, and like Buffy doesn't know she's a slayer. She can't fight vampires, and they're trying to run away from these vampires. And it's still to this day, I laugh my ass off at the point where Spike thinks that he's Giles's son, and he thinks his name is Randy because that's what's on the inside of the jacket that he stole. And then he said, "Oh my god, Dad, you named me Randy Giles. Why not just name me Horny Giles or Desperate to Get a Shag Giles?" Like this whole thing, the whole thing is just hilarious to me. And then of course at the end, you know, it actually gets pretty sad at the end. But just that whole sequence of when they lost their memories and they don't know what the heck they're gonna do, it's just brilliant, and it definitely makes me laugh. So Tabula Rasa, you know, season 6, so season 2, season 5, and season 6 I think are my favorites out of the whole show. So the last one for the 5, and I'm gonna have to throw in a couple of honorable mentions here because I can't leave it to 5, sorry. So for the main list, I have season 6, episode 22, which is Grave, and of course that's where we get Dark Willow. And right at the end of season 6, so I believe it's like the last 3 episodes after Tara gets shot and Willow just goes completely off the deep end. So it's so heartbreaking in that episode when Tara dies, and Willow is just the grief, you know, and she goes completely dark. So we get Dark Willow. She's all covered in veins and everything. She goes to the magic shop and actually sucks all of the dark spells out of the books and everything, and she goes and of course she kills Warren, and that kill, I mean, it's just awful. And then she's after the other two guys. But in this specific episode, right at the end, when she, you know, damn near kills Giles, and Anya is with Giles because she thinks he's dying, and Giles has the vision of Willow where she's going to the Satanic Temple and she wants to destroy the world. And when Xander comes in, oh, I'm getting choked up. When Xander comes in and Giles says, there's hope, and he brings her back to life basically with, geez guys, I'm getting choked up just thinking about this episode. So anyway, when Xander manages to get Willow, and then he tells the story about the yellow crayon, and she's like just blasting him with all of this energy and she wants him dead, and she falls and she's bawling and he's just with her. And okay, so my makeup is sufficiently messed up. I'm sufficiently embarrassed because I can't even talk about that episode. You guys have no idea how much of an emotional person I am. I bawl uncontrollably at that episode. And in Harry Potter, spoiler alert for Harry Potter, by the way, so skip forward a little bit if you haven't watched it. But when Dumbledore dies, still, we've got to pause it because I am like inconsolably crying. So, you guys have no idea, like I cry at TikToks. Okay, so anyway, that one, you know, when Xander manages to bring Willow back from the dark is just absolutely incredible. So I've got to throw in a couple of honorable mentions here because I just can't not talk about them. So the season finale of episode 5, so of course our season finales are always going to be wonderful. But the season finale of episode 5, when Buffy dies for the second time, is another episode. You know, Glory is actually probably my favorite villain in the entire series. But like when Buffy, you know, she has to save Dawn, the doorway has been opened and she needs to go. So she's talking about it being Summer's blood, and her blood and Dawn's blood is the same. So she's going to go and she's going to close down the gateway. So it won't be hell on earth, basically. And when she goes and she dies, and then at the end when they all discover her body and Spike just falls to his knees, and it's just, oh. And I love like the whole thing with Glory and Ben. So of course Buffy can't bring herself to kill Ben, and if he's alive, Glory still has a chance to come back from the hell dimension to basically possess his body on Earth. So of course Giles has to do it because Buffy is a hero and she won't do it. And I love that whole dynamic. It was fantastic. I love how they did the character of Glory, and you know, I love Drusilla too, but I think Glory has to be my favorite villain in the whole show. So I had to throw that one in there because it gets me every single time. And then the other one would be the series finale. Now, I think the series finale of this show is one of the best series finales I've ever seen. I love the series finale of Buffy. Again, I cry uncontrollably, and the whole thing with Spike, and he has the pendant, and you know, basically he saves everyone, and Sunnydale ends up getting sucked into the Hellmouth, and just the whole thing. So I think it was fantastic. And then of course you've got Willow, who was so consumed with the dark, and she becomes basically a goddess on Earth through the scythe and just that whole thing. So I bawl my entire way through the series finale. I really do. Every single time we watch it, Matt laughs at me, but he cries too. So so there you guys go. That is my Buffy video. I'm still tearing up a little bit here. I'm so sorry. So let me know what you guys think of my list. Are any on my dislike list? Are they your favorites? You know, we can definitely disagree. And of course, I love this series with my whole heart, so it's not like I absolutely dislike these episodes. They're just, out of all of them, they're my least favorite. And then of course with my most favorite, do you guys share a love of these episodes? Let me know your guys' favorite episodes as well. But until next time, stay spooky guys. Bye.